What is history, really? We think we know the answer, right? But what if it's not just some dusty record of the past? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the reconstruction of time and uncover a much more powerful idea. So let's get right into it. So let's just start with a basic question. When I say the word history, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it dates, famous battles, old yellowing documents?
For most of us, I bet, it's something like this. A pretty straightforward record of stuff that happened. A collection of facts about what went down, when it went down, and who was there. Seems simple enough, doesn't it?
While the source we're digging into today says, hold on a second, it totally challenges that simple definition. It suggests that history is something way more active, way more complex, and honestly, a lot more powerful than just a list of things that happened. And that brings us to our first huge idea. History isn't something you just find. It's something you reconstruct. It's an active process, not a passive one. Okay, so here's the core concept. History is the historian's reconstruction of the past. It's built by interpreting everything from written records and oral traditions to physical artifacts. And that one word, interpretation, that's the key. It means there are choices, there are perspectives. It's all about how you piece the puzzle together.
And what's really wild is that this idea has been there from the very, very beginning. The original Greek word for history, historia, doesn't actually mean the past. It means inquiry, the act of asking questions, of investigating.
So who were the first people to take this whole idea of inquiry and turn it into, a real discipline? Let's meet the OGs, the very first historians.
Back in ancient Greece, you've got these two guys who basically laid the foundation for all of Western history. There's Herodotus, who gets the epic title, the father of history, and then there's Thucydides, often called the model for historians.
And these two, they set up two totally different but super important ways of doing things. Herodotus was the master storyteller. He created this grand, sweeping narrative describing all these different cultures. Thucydides, on the other hand, he was the analyst. He was all about accuracy, critically examining his sources. He basically wrote the playbook for historical rigor. And this amazing blend of great storytelling and a deep commitment to the truth, it became the gold standard. It was so powerful that it was picked up and carried on by the great Roman historians. We're talking giants like Livy, Sallust, and Tacitus, and it shaped how history was written for centuries to come. But, of course, the way we reconstruct the past didn't just freeze in time. As societies changed, the very lens they used to look at their own past changed too. You could say the practice of history has its own history.
I mean, just look at this timeline. During the Renaissance, people saw history as cyclical. Empires rise, they fall, lather, rinse, repeat. Then you get to the Enlightenment, and history is treated more like a branch of philosophy. The 19th century got really into national and ethnic histories, and then, bam, the 20th century comes along and the game totally changes, with computers and social sciences bringing hard data into the picture.
And all this evolution, it leads us straight into a huge debate that's still happening in the field today. At its core, is history a science or is it an art?
So yeah, let's just ask it straight up. After all that change, where does that leave us? What is history right now? Is it this methodical, evidence-based science? Or is it more of an interpretive, creative, narrative-driven art form? When you break it down like this, you can really see both sides. The argument for science is all about how historians use technology to analyze artifacts and crunch data. But the argument for art? That zeroes in on the absolutely essential act of interpreting those findings and weaving them into a story that makes sense, reconstructing the past from all these little broken pieces of evidence. So, which is it? Well, the most compelling answer is that history isn't one or the other. It's this unique, incredible blend of both. It has to use the rigorous tools of science to find the evidence, but it needs the creativity of art to give that evidence meaning. It's a field that really demands a scientific mind and an artist's soul. Okay, so we've looked at what history is and how it's done. But that brings us to the most important question of all. Why? Why does any of this matter? Why do we even need to reconstruct the past in the first place? At the end of the day, history isn't just about knowing what happened before. It provides the entire foundation, the whole context that allows a person or even an entire nation to understand where they are right now and to make clear, informed decisions about where they're going. Our source puts this so perfectly with this question. Think about it for a second. Can you even imagine yourself without your memories? Of course not.
Your entire identity is built from your personal history, your experiences, your mistakes, your successes. It's the stuff that makes you, well, you.
And that's the big analogy right there. In the exact same way our personal memories give us an identity and a sense of direction, a nation's collective history does the same thing for a whole society. It's the wellspring of its values, its identity, and its sense of purpose in the world.
But this is where things get really serious. Because history is a reconstruction, it can also be manipulated. Nations can create propaganda, or what you might call pseudo-history, these distorted versions of the past designed for one reason, to justify their present actions and legitimize their power. And that leads us to one final, absolutely critical question.
So, if our understanding of the past is what truly guides our path into the future, and if that understanding is always an act of reconstruction, of interpretation, then what does it actually mean to tell a true history? There's no easy answer to that, but it's a question that really shows you the immense weight, the huge responsibility on anyone who dares to reconstruct time.